Some say the Christian life is difficult because there are so many rules. Others say the rules make it easier. Still others say there aren't many rules at all. With thousands of denominations out there, it's not surprising there are so many viewpoints. The awesome thing about God is that He's constant, all-loving, and willing to wait while we find our way. So, what exactly does it mean to be a Christian? And how are we to live a good Christian life? We tackle these questions and more as we go forward and live life with joy and on purpose.
Hello, and welcome to our show. I'm Jamie West. Today we're going to discuss the sounds of silence, learning to be quiet and listening to God. So let me give you a little bit of background first. I rediscovered God in my late 30s, late 30s, somewhere in that general time frame. I had been raised in a church and went to a church for the first 21 years of my life. And my father was actually a minister, so we were there for all the occasions. We were there on Sunday mornings, Sunday evenings, potlucks, baptisms, funerals, weddings, all the services on Wednesday evenings, everything. So we were there a lot, and I learned a lot in church. I went to Sunday school all my life. I memorized all kinds of scriptures. I did all kinds of things. And then I married a person who was outside my faith. And while he eventually converted, we still had an interest in living the proper life and being the people that God intended us to be. However, we were being shipped around the country and overseas a lot too. So it was very difficult sometimes to find a home church that we could go to. So while we had a lot of Bible studies at home, and we actually bought different Bibles so that we could study different things and understand different things and see if we could come to a conclusion of what we were supposed to believe and how we were supposed to do it. So we went through that stage. We really didn't attend church a lot. We did for a couple of years in different congregations. And being overseas a lot, the military has what they call on almost every base an all-faith chapel, and they have a standard Protestant service and a standard Catholic service, and they even have a Jewish service on Saturdays. And so all of these things just came together where we were just going to a general non-denominational church, and it was an enlightening experience because I learned that a lot of churches are actually quite a bit alike in their services and what they expect and what they believe. But I still didn't have the deep down commitment that I now know I should have had. And when I was in my early 30s, a friend and I had a traumatic experience. Another friend of ours passed away. And she was the one who actually brought it up, and she realized that this friend had been a very accomplished person. She was a writer, and she was a very accomplished writer, and she had made the most of all the time she had. In fact, finishing her last book about 3 hours before she passed away. And so we were discussing how she just utilized her time and did what was right and made sure that everything was taken care of and all the loose ends were tied up while she went through a period of cancer, terminal cancer. And we discussed how we, my friend and I, didn't seem to have accomplished much in our lives. Yes, we went through the normal routine of getting married, having children, raising those children, and taking care of them and doing all of the wonderful things that God intends families to do. But at the same time, we felt like that we had wasted parts of our lives because we just didn't accomplish much. So we started on this voyage of self-discovery. And we read some books, self-help books, I guess I want to say, that told us more about our personality and how we are influenced by our childhood and things we may not even remember, and how to set boundaries and take care of the people around us and be the people that we should be and present ourselves well. Well, as we went through this process, everything pointed towards God. And so one day she proposed that we start doing Bible studies. And so we did. We spent an intense 2 or 3 years just doing Bible study after Bible study. And we went in together. We would do things on our own first in the Bible study, and then we would talk to each other and get together and discuss the answers and just have all of these wonderful biblical discussions throughout that we studied on our own for a week, and then every Friday we got together and discussed everything. And so it was extremely enlightening. And as we went through these studies, I started realizing that there were parts of my personality that were not conducive to what God wanted me to be. It's a very sobering realization when you realize that you're not the person you should be, and that you have to do everything you can to improve yourself. No one will do it for you. But not only that, you can't blame past mistakes and past history on anyone else. It was a very sobering thought. And when I thought about my childhood and some of the terrible things that happened in it, I always blamed my parents. I always blamed other people. And it was a very difficult realization to come to realize that they were doing the best they could with the information and the tools that they had at hand. And I did not realize that. There were things in my childhood that made me angry and upset and all that, and I'm sure all of us have them. We all have moments where we think back on our childhood and just cringe because of either something tragic or something bad or, whatever. But all of that also, while I didn't have a choice in it, there was no one to blame for it. There were things that happened, and there were things that happened in my parents' lives that made them the way that they were, and they were reacting the way they thought they should. That was a huge realization for me, and it was also the path to forgiveness. So while this was going on, I'm thinking to myself, I need to change how I am. I need to change my internal thoughts. I need to stop being the person who presents this facade to the world that everything is okay and I'm all bubbly and happy, when inside there's still a lot of hurt and pain and anger. And so I started searching the scriptures, started looking, how am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be? What does God want from me? And one day I stumbled across this passage, and I've heard it a million times before. Well, maybe not a million, but thousands of times before. I've heard it. I've heard it over and over and over. I grew up listening to it, and I knew this passage. I knew it by heart. Matthew 18, 2-4. He called a little child to him, placed the child among them. And he said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like the little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. I pondered that for a very long time. I have to be like a kid? I have to go back to my childhood? I have to be somebody who has to be told what to do? I saw the negative. I never saw the positive. I kept thinking, how do you go back to being a kid when you know everything that you know? When you've become an adult and life has knocked you around and people have been mean to you and taught you things that you don't really need to know or want to know. When you know that you can't trust people as much as you should, or people have betrayed you, or people have gossiped about you. How do you go back to being a child? And so I pondered it for a couple weeks. I did all my daily chores, played with my dogs, talked to my kids, talked to my husband, all of them, not really talking about this, but just, going through the daily life, and just kept pondering, how do you go back to being a child? How do you go back? I mean, with all that you know, how do you go back? So I'm reading the scriptures, going through things, and I come upon this passage in Psalms 46:10. I'm sure all of us have heard it too. He says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." And I looked at that and I was like, be still and know that I am God. So I thought, okay, I'll be quiet. I'll just, listen to what God has to say to me every time I talk to him. So I would pray, and I would pray for a long time, and I would just keep getting this, be still and know that I am God. And I'd be like, okay, I am being still. I'm sitting here in communion with you, sometimes upwards to an hour or two. And I'm talking to you, God, and I'm telling you all my woes, and I'm telling you everything, and you keep telling me, be still and know that I am God. And a few weeks goes by, and one day I was talking to God again, and going like, I am being still. I'm sitting here. No one's around. I'm praying. I'm telling you everything. And he said, be still. And I started thinking about it. What does be still mean? I mean, really, what does it mean? I can't stop moving. I can't stop getting out of bed every morning and taking care of my dogs and taking care of my family and taking care of my husband. I can't not drive to the grocery store and get the groceries for the family. What do? I can't stop cleaning the house. I can't stop doing the dishes. What does be still mean? So I thought about it again for a while, because apparently I'm fairly dense. And one day I got up in the morning and I heard be still. And I don't know how it came upon me. The Spirit of God moved upon me or whatever. Don't speak. Be still. Silence. Be quiet. And I thought, how? How am I going to do that? How can I just be like a monk in one of those monasteries, or the nuns who take a vow of silence? I can't do that. I can't take a vow of silence. I have to talk to people every day. I have to talk to my husband. I have to talk to my kids. I have to talk to the dogs. I have to talk to the cashiers at the grocery store. How do you be still? And then it came to me. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. We say this to kids all the time. Don't speak unless you're spoken to, especially when we're in an argument with them. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. And I thought, is that what God's trying to tell me? And it took a little while again to sink in, a day or two. And I thought, how am I going to do this? There is no way I can just stop speaking. But there was a way. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. So I thought, okay, I'll do this for 30 days. I'm not going to speak to anybody unless they speak to me first. And when they speak to me, I'm only going to give them what they asked, or what they spoke to me about, whatever, or respond in kind. Okay? So I'm like, okay, I'm all set. So that's what I did. I spent 30 days not speaking unless I was spoken to. The good thing about it was the first 2 weeks, my husband and my kids were away from home. So it was actually kind of easy. I didn't even speak to the dogs. Every morning I would get up and I would get dressed and ready for my day, and I'd give the dogs their food. I was alone in the house, so it was easy. Didn't have to speak to anybody. And then one day I had to go grocery shopping. And at the time I lived in Texas. And if you know anything about Texas, everyone is friendly. They talk to you at the cash registers. So I thought, how am I going to do this? So I went to the store, walked around, bought my groceries, didn't say anything to anybody, just pondered God. Because that's what you start doing. When you're being silent, this is an interesting thing. You start thinking. You start thinking about a lot of things. Just past life, current life, what's in the future, what God wants from you. You just start thinking. So I was silent. I went through the grocery store, bought all my groceries, and got up to the cash register, and the perky little girl goes, "Hi, how are you?" And I said, "Hi, I'm fine." And that was the end of the conversation. She didn't continue, and I didn't continue. So I thought, man, this is easy. So go home, put my groceries away, and within a few days, my husband and kids came home. Uh-oh. So again, I told God I was going to do this for 30 days, and I had 2 weeks to go. I did not speak unless I was spoken to. I just kept doing exactly what I always do. Took care of them, took care of the laundry, took care of the dishes, did some cooking, let them do some cooking. They sometimes took care of the laundry, they sometimes took care of the dishes. And they were so involved in what they had to get done and what they were doing that I don't think they noticed. I only spoke when spoken to. I had a lot of time to ponder that because, as you can tell, I'm normally very talkative and I can talk about anything to anybody. I've learned through the years how to be very social. Our military years, I thank them for that because I was not social before. But I've learned how to make light conversation and how to make deep conversation and how to be there for a friend, all of those things. I've learned all those things. It's a superficial thing that actually can be trained into you. And people don't realize that. But while the family was there, I didn't speak unless they spoke to me. And if they asked me a question, I only answered the question. I didn't embellish on it. I didn't tell them some little story like I do a lot of times here. I just answered the question. 2 weeks went by very quickly. I had plenty of time to think about God. I had plenty of time to talk to Him. And I started noticing some things. When you don't talk a lot, you have time to think. But you also have time to observe. When you don't talk a lot, you have time to pay attention to what people say and do. You have time to look around and see people. And you have time to really see them. Not just the person who passes through your life, but the person who is in your life. And you start noticing things. And I'm not talking about negative things. I'm talking about positive things. You start seeing the people that they are. You start seeing that they do things too. That they do things for the good of themselves and for others. And this is what I noticed about my husband and my kids. They did things for themselves, but they also did things for others. They were concerned about the world that they were living in. They were concerned about the people who were in that world. And I started noticing and seeing them in a different light. He wasn't just my husband anymore. He was a provider. He was a person who took care of people, both at home and at work. It's a wonderful quality to have. I saw my kids, the same thing. I saw both of my children exhibit mercy. And something I didn't even know that they knew. Not that they were mean children or anything like that, just that there were times when their heart spoke to them and they answered with their heart instead of with the logic of their brain. I saw my 2 grown-up girls for the first time as grown-ups, not the children that I always had to take care of. I saw people around me, my friends, all of those around me in a whole different light. And I think that that is what God wanted me to see. He wanted me to be still, not only to know that He was God, but to know the people around me, to see them in a different light, to see them for what they were. It was an amazing experience. And by the way, I still do it from time to time. Occasionally, when life gets really chaotic and too many things are happening and I feel oppressed on all sides, I listen to God. I be still and know that He is God and that He's going to handle the worries and the tribulations and the trials that are around me. He's going to handle the evil that tries to knock on my door. He's going to handle all of it if I just be still and know that He is God. And it's funny, we've heard the phrase, "this too shall pass." I find myself saying that more and more because I know if I just let go and stop trying to control all the events and the people around me, that God's going to handle it one way or another, and this too shall pass. So it was an enlightening experience to be silent, to go through my entire life for 30 days and only speak when I was spoken to, so that I could be like the little children. I could look at the world with wonder. I could look at the world and see new things, because that's how kids see the world. Think about it. How do little kids see the world? Everything's new to them. Everything is new to them. They may get into a routine with you, but the minute you do something different that's outside their sphere, it's new. And how are they supposed to react? You know, some act with a lot of livelihood and others are a little standoffish and wait and see what's going to happen. Well, that's where God wanted me to be. He wanted me to move away from myself and wait and see what was going to happen. But at the same time, He didn't want to crush my spirit. Just like you don't want to crush your children's spirit when they are experiencing a new thing. You want them to understand the joy, the fun, the excitement in new adventures. But at the same time, how many of us want them to be cautious too? Because we don't want them falling off a cliff or something when we're hiking in the mountains for the very first time. So being still, being quiet, brought this peace to my heart that I still have. It's been 20 years now. I still have a peace in my heart. I still know that if there's a situation that I can't handle, that I just have to be still for a little while and know that God is going to handle it. One of the other things too that happened, I used to be a very excitable person. I was constantly here, there, and everywhere, having fun, enjoying life. I still am that person. I still have fun. I still enjoy life. I still see the humor in a lot of things. But I'm not this off-the-wall bouncing person that I used to be. I used to bounce off the walls. I used to drive some people crazy. But now I still have fun and enjoy life. But now I know bouncing off the walls isn't going to make it any more exciting. Bouncing off the walls isn't going to make it any more fun. Stop. Take a deep breath. Be still, know that God is there, and still have fun, and still see the wonder and the joy in life that little kids see all the time. It's just an interesting exercise. I hope you try it. I don't know how successful you will be, because it is very difficult to do when you have your family around you and you interact with them on a daily basis, or you have friends that you interact with on a daily basis, or workmates that you interact with on a daily basis. It is hard to do. But if you have an opportunity to try it, I highly recommend it. Now, remember back at the beginning when I said no one noticed? I was wrong. 6 or 7 months down the road, I was in the car with my kids, and we were talking about something, and I had said nothing, and we were just talking opinion about something or the other. I don't know what restaurant to pick or where we were going to go or whatever, and my husband asked me for my opinion, and I really didn't have one, honestly. A lot of times I'll say, I don't care, let's do whatever you guys want to do. I'll have fun no matter what, because I do. And I said something similar, I don't care, let's just do whatever you guys want to do. And my husband kept pressing me, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I truly don't care. Let's just go do something and enjoy it. And my oldest daughter goes, Dad, Mom's not going to give you opinion. She doesn't give an opinion. She's quiet and she just does what we like to do, and she enjoys it too. And I was like, she noticed. And my younger daughter chimed in. She goes, yeah, Dad, just choose a place and we'll go, Mom will go along with it, and we'll all love doing it or whatever. And I was just surprised because they did notice. They did notice. They noticed that I had been quiet and hadn't talked a lot. And my oldest daughter now, she goes, yeah, you're just going to be like Mom. Now she says things when we're being quiet. She goes, I'm just going to answer like Mom. Uh-huh. And I started laughing because that's exactly what I did. When they said things to me where I didn't want to, break the silence, I would just say, or yes, and that was it. And she said, I'm going to be like Mom. And I thought it was funny that happened. So this whole experience changed my perspective. It changed the way I look at other people. It changed the way I looked at what they do and what they say. And it was a wonderful reflective experience because it gave me time not only just to see that, but also to talk to God and spend time with Him and listen to Him. Now, granted, I have to say, it took me a couple of weeks. God kind of has to hit me over the head with a brick when these things happen, because I don't get it on the first shot, as you know, because I've told you. And if you don't get it on the first shot, if you don't get it right, if maybe you have to break your silence after 2 weeks, don't worry about it. God knows you're trying, and you can always try it again. So it's just a moment in time in your life where you can reflect and you can spend time listening to other people. And I'm going to leave you with this scripture because I think that this actually applies, even though it doesn't sound like it does. Matthew 5:9, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. I feel that after this experience, I've actually become a more peaceful person. I have a tendency now to try to be a peacemaker when situations get out of hand. And I feel like this is where God wanted me to be. Be still and know that He was God. And when I finish the exercise, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God.
On Purpose is funded through sponsor support. We thank you for your generosity. To donate or to learn more about sponsorships and the On Purpose mission, visit www.pelicast.net. If you have questions or comments about this program, email us at suggestionbox@pelicast.net.
Thank you for watching today's episode.